edition of the CLNS Media Podcast Network and on Patriots Press Pass. Evan Lazar and Alex Barth with you this evening. We're going to take you through Mock Draft 3.0, a 7-round Patriots mock draft, all the way from the first round at 21 to, well, they don't have a 7th round pick currently, but maybe they will by the end of the night. And we're going to take you pick by pick. We're going to break down all the options. We're going to probably talk about some things for way too long and debate things for way too long before we make the selection. And right before we get into this, because I want to get right into it, I cannot escape, and I respect everybody's opinion on the internet, Alex. I respect everybody's drafts. I respect everybody's opinions. But the fact of the matter is I cannot escape this take that the Patriots should be looking at guard at 21. I just can't escape it. No matter where we go, Peter Schrager on NFL Network this morning posting his mock draft, which typically is a little bit different from everybody else's, but Schrager has been known to have some intel on what teams like. And a couple years ago with the Patriots, he nailed the Jawan Williams pick. I remember that a couple days before the draft. So he's clued in a little bit, right? I'm not saying that he knows for a fact that they're going to take Zion Johnson, but he is clued in a little bit onto what the league is doing. Mark Daniels, Providence Journal, he published a mock draft today. Zion Johnson at 21. I just read Phil Perry's mock draft that had Bernard Raymond, a tackle. I can get a little bit more on board with that, right? The Patriots, that's how they approach it. From Matt Light to Nate Solder to Isaiah Wynn, you have to keep that position stocked, and they want to.
Atlas doesn't want to guard.
Yeah, he doesn't want to guard either. No, you want to keep passing that torch at left tackle. I get that. That one I can stomach a little bit more. But what I keep coming back to, and why we will not be taking a guard tonight, is the Buffalo Bills scored points on 19 possessions in a row against the Patriots in the last 2 games last season. The game in Foxborough and the wild card round game in Buffalo. 19 straight possessions. The fact that anybody could sell you on a guard being the answer to going toe-to-toe with Josh Allen is absolutely beyond me. I can hear both arguments. I can hear load up on defense, get faster, get younger, get more new age at the linebacker level. I can hear that argument. I can also hear the argument of draft Jameson Williams and just try to win a shootout, right? I can hear that argument too. The argument that I can't hear, Alex, is that the guard helps you at all. That's the one that I just can't wrap my head around. And I'm going to continue to be anti-guard until we get to the draft. And I hope tonight that you don't try to play any jokes on me and take a guard at 21 behind my back.
All right. Well, because you did say on the last show that I was going to play. You pretty much picked our first round pick in each of the first 2. It's ultimately your show. And you made I gave my input. You made the pick. Let's see what happens this time. Let's see what we do.
That's fair.
So you did say I get to have more input.
I did. And you can put this take out there. You can pin it if you want. I am telling you, the Patriots can get serviceable guard play at later points in the draft. They don't need to use the 21st pick on a guard to protect Mac Jones. They can get guards later on in the draft that will keep him upright. I promise you. That's not the point, right? The point is that you can get the value later on in the draft. That's the point.
But here's what I tell you, and I'll throw this disclaimer on this draft too, because I feel like people lose track of this fact. I think we lose track of this fact sometimes as we get into this thing. This is not what we would do if we were sitting in the chair. That's not what this exercise is. It's what do we think the Patriots would do based on historical tendencies and reports that are out there and all of that, right? What do we think the Patriots would do if they were in the situation we put ourselves in, the way the board sets up? So you can cry all you want about not wanting guard at 21. I don't think it's the best pick either. Could I see them doing it? Absolutely. I think it's absolutely a possibility in reality. So that's what, just to clarify what you're saying here. You don't like the pick, and I agree with you. But it's absolutely a potential reality. It's absolutely something that would be on the table, I think.
The fact that it's a potential reality is, I can't stomach it. It's just absolutely baffling to me.
And we did 20 minutes on how much it upsets you in the last show. We don't need to go back down that road.
No, we're pushing 5 already. not only the fact that you need to have more top end talent on the team, but defensively, they're so far away from how they need to be built in terms of team speed, in terms of athleticism, in terms of the ability to be more flexible at the second level. They just have so much of a talent gap, I think, on that side of the ball that it just makes no sense to me. We can get into the mock draft. And no, I
Yeah,
will
let's
not
get
let
into
this go. I won't let it go. If they
it.
take a guard, it's the wrong pick. I'm sorry. If you don't like it, go watch another show. Let's get into the
No,
mock
don't do
draft.
that. Don't do that. That's fine. We'll make sure it's part of I'll make sure it's part of the conversation. Let's do this.
All right, here we go.
All right, so there's the setup. Same as last time. I just want to make sure 7 rounds, fast. Yep. Okay. We're not trading up. I think we both agree on that.
Yes.
Okay. So
But can we stop it at like 15 though? Just to like see who's off the board. I just want to.
all right.
We go too fast.
This is realistically. No, this is realistically. I mean, here's the thing: the Eagles and Saints handpicked these 4 picks. They're not trading, right? They made that trade last week. They set themselves up in that position, and then I don't think the Chargers are going to trade. So you have to go up to at least 14, which is pretty significant.
Yeah, I don't think you're doing that in this climate, right? You need the picks. Right. So where they're sitting at right now, because scroll up a little bit more, just so I can see.
I might as well just finish these 2 picks, right?
Okay, yeah. I mean, I assume quarterbacks are going to go in one of these 2 picks, right? I'm surprised that neither one of those are quarterbacks. Well, this seems to be like
the Saints took Malik Willis at 16.
Okay, all right. So that and Kenny Pickett went before that.
The other way around in reality, but I could see that.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so here we go. We said we weren't going to trade down, right? We said we were going to make a pick here. So there's some options here. I think we can make.
This is the best board we've had. This
so
is
far, easily.
Yeah, Wyatt, Penning, Booth. The guards are still here. I mean, there's some other interesting names. Hill. This is the best board, which at the same time is the best board we've had so far. Could we move down, accumulate assets, and still get a guy we like?
We're taking 21. We're taking a guy. I said it on Twitter. We said it at the end of last show. We've done the trade down route, right? We've shown what that picture could look like. So the Patriots pick here does feel like a tackle, right? It does feel like I just went over the Matt Light to Nate Solder, the Nate Solder to Isaiah Wynn, that succession at left tackle. They have never been left without a left tackle. They've never been in a position where they're searching for a left tackle. Penning, I think, is an interesting conversation because it could go one. I would actually throw Raymond in this conversation too, just because of the level of competition. There are so few padded practices nowadays in the NFL. It's really just training camp. And then once you get into the season, that's it, except for maybe one day a week. Those 1 day a weeks, that's the guys that are playing on Sunday are the guys getting the reps in those padded practices, right?
Right.
So trial by combat is kind of the new norm for linemen in the NFL. Guys that get redshirted, yeah, mental reps can be important. Yeah, sitting in those meeting rooms, sitting in those film studies, those things can be important, but you're not getting any physical reps once you get into the season to improve. And especially in line play, that's an issue. So with Penning, he's got some technique things that he needs to work out. He needs to get more flexible in those lower half. He needs to stop bending at the waist as much. And he's got some aggression issues, right? He's got to harness that aggression a little better. He's been leading the FBS in penalties for multiple seasons now. So I feel like you got to play a guy like Penning to try to season him, to try to round him out as a prospect. Where are they playing him as a rookie? They're not going to be, unless somebody gets hurt, unless Wynn or Trent Brown gets hurt. And we're not doing the Isaiah Wynn's a guard thing. We're not doing that.
Right.
Where are they playing Penning? Because I do think looking at this board, the 2 guys that I think make the most sense at this point, just using my Bill Belichick Patriots hat, is DeVante Wyatt or Trevor Penning. Like the guys on the trenches feels like where they would probably go with a pick like this.
See, I think this draft is so deep on the defensive line. I don't think Penning, I don't think Wyatt would be the pick here. We see them do this all the time where it's a loaded draft and they, somebody falls to them and they just move on because they know they can get the value. To me, it's Penning and Booth.
Yeah.
Penning, for all the reasons you said, they're going to need a starting left tackle in a year. He's a year away. We're way out right now, but next year's tackle class looks so if we don't have a top 10 pick. Then again, Penning was not on the radar last year, so who knows? But I think Penning is a logical pick, and I think Booth, because we know they met with him.
Yep.
As much as we've talked about this positionless defense, they still don't have that big corner on the outside. And there's going to be matchups where they need that guy. And even if they are going to go positionless zone defense, I don't think that's a full-time switch, right? I think that's a one-year thing because of the circumstances, and they're going to try to get back to press man as soon as they can. Booth would facilitate that, right?
Yeah. So he doesn't have the reps in press man, or I should say the volume in press man that some of the other corners in the draft do, like Kair Elam, for instance, from Florida, or Roger McCreary from Auburn. Those guys played a lot more press and volume in college, but the reps that I saw out of Andrew Booth in press man are really, really impressive. Fluid guy, really good footwork, really good mirroring ability. He can go up and high point a ball down the field. He's an explosive athlete, and he is a terrific zone corner. Like, probably the best. He might be the best zone corner in the draft. I mean, the guy is extremely good in zone. He's also really good in zone match, right? So you play him in those match zones where he's matching it vertically. If he passes it off, if he runs underneath the defense. They did a lot of that at Clemson. The Patriots have not been a big Clemson prospect school, right? They don't really take a whole lot of guys
under Belichick.
But
They've had players from Clemson, but they've never drafted one under Belichick.
Yeah, what I like about Booth for them is that at Clemson under Venables, Brett Venables, now at Oklahoma, they run such a diverse and complex scheme that Booth is one of those guys that's very game plan oriented, right? Like, if they want to play zone 1 week and then play man the next week, he's a guy that can do that sort of thing because Venables is so multiple in his packages and the way that they run things in that defense. He's got a lot of experience already doing those types of things. So I love Andrew Booth here. I don't know if the Patriots would go corner in the first round. They feel like a corner in the second round type of team, right? That's always their DB round, is the second round.
So here's what I'd say two things because I think at this point, Wyatt's out. Some people have asked about Raymond. We both like Penning as a prospect better than Raymond.
Yeah.
That's why we're on. Like, if we're going to take a tackle here, it's Penning. Here's why I'd say corner if we're going to put our Patriots hats on. First off, I would actually, and as much as I like Trevor Penning, and if they took him here in this spot, it would be a fine pick. But between the two, everything you keep saying about them taking a guard, they can develop these guys so well. There's talent further down the board. That's also true at tackle.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? And look, they've hit on UDFA corners. They certainly have. But their tackle record, their offensive line record's impeccable. The other thing I'd say about it, you said they don't feel like a first-round corner team. They really haven't done that under Bill. Look at two of their last 3 first rounds. Wide receiver, quarterback. It's a different era. Matt Groh's in the seat now, right? Last year, we kept saying they weren't going to take a quarterback because it was too obvious. And then they took Mac Jones after he fell to him. This feels very similar, right? They won't take a corner. They never take those kind of guys in the first round. But Booth is the perfect fit, but it doesn't matter because that's not their guy. It's everything we said about Mac Jones last year, right? And now here we are in the same spot with Andrew Booth. So that's why I would say Andrew Booth. Again, Penning in this spot, let me just pull up the board again just so we can remind ourselves who's here. Again, they have Raymond higher. I like Penning better. Penning would be a good pick. I could get behind Wyatt. He wouldn't be my favorite pick. I could get behind him.
I think Wyatt's interesting just because of the optics of pairing Christian Barmore with DeVante Wyatt for the next 5 to 10 years is a lot of fun.
But we can go get Bree. We can go get
Mathis,
Fidarian Mathis. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not too worried about that. Yeah. I could even consider Dax Hill here. I've said this a lot. I think getting Devin McCourty's replacement is important. Hill could be that guy. I think there's a number. This board actually worked out okay.
Hill is such one of those guys that, just like Devin McCourty, they got safety depth in Devin McCourty's rookie season. So they played him at outside corner and then eventually moved him to safety. I could definitely see the same thing going on with Dax Hill, where as a rookie, he's playing corner because that's where they need him to play. But then once Devin McCourty retires and that free safety spot opens up, they eventually move him back to free safety and they get him in a spot where he probably hits his ceiling the fastest, right? Or is the best possible football player. I think, look, I said that you could make the pick. I was going to give you more power here. I like Andrew Booth Jr. here personally, but I'm going to let you do it.
The fact the Clemson thing would like kind of worry me because they never picked from that program, but the fact they had him in for top 30 visit, I know the combine meetings never really mean anything.
He did have an injury, I believe, right? He did have an injury. I think
he had like minor core surgery. He's expected to be back for camp.
Yeah, I'm not saying never bothered. No, I'm not saying I'm concerned or they would be concerned, but sometimes these 30 visits are to bring guys in to see how they're doing in their rehab and see how their health is if they had an injury.
Right, but at the same time, you're not going to do that if you don't think there's a shot you'd pick him, right? And they may see that as, well, here's the value. He's going to fall to us. Because this is a coin flip to me that he gets to 21. 50-50. I could see him being there. I could see him not, right? That being said, Evan, I think we lock it in. Andrew Booth.
Andrew Booth is the pick at 21.
Andrew, and it's a good pick.
I like it. Andrew Booth Jr. from Clemson, the pick at 21.
So now I'm going to fast forward a little bit. I'm going to pause right here. That's fine. So who else went? So Penning went. Raymond went. Wyatt went. Elam went. So Dax Hill didn't go. What do you think about doubling up, like moving up and doubling up in the secondary?
I think it's a little bit early to do that. I wouldn't mind doing it on day 3 with somebody that maybe has some like a Cordell Flood, or if Zion McCollum makes it to day 3 or something like that, to have hedge your bets, right? But to trade up and give up a bunch of capital to go up and get another secondary player, you still need somebody in the front 7. You still ideally use a defensive lineman. We're still talking wide receiver, right? That's going to come again too at some point. I wouldn't do that this early. I do like the idea of coming back to later though, if we can.
So let's go to, so here's the other thing. Like I'm just going to let it run to 54 because we need capital. I don't think he went yet. He went with that. So they would have, in theory, they wouldn't trade that to us anyway because they would have known we were taking him.
Right. Christian Harris going and Chapman would go in the 2 out of the 3 picks before is tough.
Yeah. And then I still want to have the Pickens Watson conversation. Maybe it's not as realistic now after the DeVante Parker trade. There's one other guy I want to see.
I think they would really like a guy like Pickens though. I agree.
Right there. If Sky Moore makes it 54, I love that pick right here.
I love Sky Moore too, but everybody is under the assumption that he's going maybe even late first, depending on how Kansas City has that wide receiver board stacked. So I don't think that he's making it anywhere close to 54. Let's take a look at the board.
Let's look by position. So wide receiver, I don't love any of these guys really at 54.
I really like Alex Pierce, but I think now with DeVante Parker in the building, I'm not sure where Pierce fits into the equation there. Maybe next year, that would be a pick for next year. I don't know if we need to pick him at 54, but I just love the idea of John Mechie not needing to rush him back. You ease him in. You really are picking him for 2023 and beyond.
Right.
Maybe they can get him at 85 and we don't need to pick him here, but that's a fun situation, I think, for the Patriots. It's almost like an ideal situation at wide receiver where it's such a great system fit, but you don't necessarily need to bring that guy in and have him be a week 1 impact star.
So let's go through some of the positions real quick here. We just kind of looked at wide receiver. I don't know that I love any of these tackles at 54. I think Saylor's an interesting player. I think Falele's
Saylor I would like to look at 85 if he's still there.
Right. On the interior, Parham, like we kind of know this group, right?
I look at tackle, edge.
Winfrey's an interesting pick here. At edge, we've got Kenigbear, Benito, Thomas. But here's the thing. All right, so it's loaded up at edge, right? Pascal. Winfrey are both still on the board. I really like D'Angelo Malone, too. Let me pull up the pure linebackers here. Troy Anderson's interesting.
It's a little early for here. It's a little early.
Quay Walker's still on the board. This actually
They don't like Quay Walker.
What?
The PFF simulator does not like Quay Walker.
Well, that's
they
the PFF simulator's fault. It's wrong.
Yeah. They seem to have Quay Walker as like a late day 2 guy, like a solid third round pick.
So I think there's multiple guys we like at multiple spots on the board.
Yeah.
Right? You're talking about Mechie too. I think it makes a ton of sense to trade down here. I think it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we've talked about trading down a ton at 21. We've never really talked about trading down here, which would be interesting. I don't know if you can get another top 100 pick for this pick.
So
let
me pull up the trade chart here and take a look. So let's say Tampa, because you don't really trade in the division. 60 plus 91. That's 88 points plus 44. So call it like 120. This pick is 100. So we could do this.
And 54, right? We're giving up 54. Too.
And 54, yeah, sorry. And 54, yeah.
Yeah. So we get 60 and 91 for 54 and 127. So basically you improve 127, you move a little bit back on 54.
Right.
It's not terrible. It gets you that extra top 100 that we've been looking for in the trade downs from 21, right? That's the whole idea of trading down from 21 is to get the extra top 100. It's a little bit of a different way of going about it. I don't hate it. I'm fine with that.
I just want to see the picks some of these other teams have. Like maybe we can add another Cincinnati 63.95. They only have one. I think they only have one. The Rams, they don't have a top 100 pick. So the only one I'd look at 63 and 95. That's 82 points and 40. So that's the same thing. It's 120. It's essentially going to be the same trade. We could get a seventh if we did this trade with the Bengals instead. We could get.
I'm all set with the 7th. I think I'd rather say top 60. Right. I'd rather get that 60th pick.
We're trading with Tampa again.
Yes.
Okay.
This is the trade. We've traded back to 60 here in the second round with quite a few guys. See, now Quay Walker goes at 57.
So, Quay Walker and Cameron Thomas went. I like both of them.
Okay.
I know it's a little bit early. I wouldn't hate taking Mechie here.
Yeah, Mechie at 60 I don't think is that early. I think this is about where he's going to start to flirt with it, right? Depending on what teams feel about the medicals and the knee. I still think you can get a linebacker at 85 or not good. I don't want to sleep on the need on the edge of the defense. I know that a lot of people want to see Josh Uche, want to see Ronnie Perkins play that spot. 2 out of the last 3 seasons, Kyle Van Noy has been a full-time player at that strong side edge position. That's a critical role. That's the Ninkovich role. That's the Frable role. It became the KVN role, right? That's a very, very critical role in this defense. I don't think Josh Uche has got the playing strength for it. I don't think he can hold up strong side with the tight end and in the combo block there, with the tight end and the tackle. I don't like the optics of that. I haven't seen Ronnie Perkins do it. I think Ronnie Perkins got some more gray strength to him than Josh Uche, but we never seen him do it on an NFL field. So that definitely remains to be seen. I don't know if any of these guys here make the most sense for it. Maybe a guy like Josh Pascal at 85. I don't know if we're going to get him at 85. So
here's what I'd say to that. And I agree with you, edge is a need. If Cameron Thomas fell and he went 2 picks before, right? If Cameron Thomas fell, I think there's a really serious conversation you have at this point about Cameron Thomas. He's a fit. If we're talking about what the Patriots would do, he is a fit. He's not here. Yeah. But I look at this board. Nick Benito's still there. Enig Bear, whose name I know I'm butchering, and I apologize, is still there. Really like good. Pascal.
I think he's kind of underrated in this conversation.
He's an underrated prospect.
Because he's somebody that can play that hybrid role and has some edge setting abilities. Benito's a really great rush linebacker, but he's Uche, right? He's the explosive edge rusher. He's not a guy that's going to take on a tight end and a tackle and hold up play side. That's not his game. He's Josh Uche. He's Chase Winovich. He's the guy that's going to pin his ears back and come off the corner. Kingsley's got a little bit more girth to him, and he's got a little bit more pop. I don't think that a lot of people know that much about him. I don't think he's a name that's been thrown out there a whole lot for the Patriots. I'm sure if we took him here, people would be like, who the heck is that guy? Right? Like, who are they taking? I also don't mind the Mechie pick. I would like to, I don't know what the defensive line board looks like. We might be able to get a defensive lineman at 85. So we might be okay there.
So that's the thing, yeah. And then D'Angelo Malone was still there too. Who's Winfrey and Mathis are still there.
So I was watching Brian Asamoah, the Oklahoma linebacker today, and he's okay, like a impressive guy. He's only 226 pounds, basically like Christian Harris, Nakobe Dean in that mold. My God, does Perrion Winfrey flash? I mean, he's just all over the tape when you watch Oklahoma's really good player. He's fantastic. I don't think you can go wrong with that. And Senior Bowl MVP as well. So the Patriots are paying attention. I don't know if we're going to get him at 85. I think he might be gone already.
Winfrey's not making it to 85. Right. But between Winfrey, I like Mathis.
Yeah, I do.
And by the way, those guys are listed as tackles. They can play on edge a little bit, I think.
Or at least some defensive end.
You're looking for. Right. That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yes.
Between those two, Pascal, Malone, I think we can get one of them at 85. I really do.
All right. I tend to agree with you. So I think the conversation comes down to, at this point, are we going to take a guy like Mechie here? Right.
I think it's Mechie or Troy Anderson. I think that's the conversation here.
Yeah. Or maybe like a pure linebacker. Yeah. I don't mind it. Although I think that with the pure linebackers, I like Anderson, but like Darian Beavers at 91 is got some value to it, right?
Channing Tindall.
Channing Tindall to get some more athleticism's got it. That's an interesting ring to it as well. The offensive linemen right now, I think we can wait on those now to the middle rounds. I said it was up to you. I'm leaving it up to you. I love Mechie here. I do.
Honestly, I want to trade back again, but we don't. Neither of the teams calling present that situation realistically. We want to add future picks.
Yeah. No, so, I'm not interested in the future picks right now.
I think it's Mechie. I think you do Mac Jones a huge favor here. You draft John Mechie. It's a little early, but they're in a position right now where they can reach on him.
Yeah. Okay. I'm with you.
All right. There it is. John Mechie. And there goes like Winfrey, Benito. Yep. There go a bunch of them. All right. Let's see who made it here. So tackle.
Fedarian Mathis also went here.
You almost okay. So finally the board got us back, but tackle we can wait a little bit. I'm good waiting a tackle.
I really like Zach Tom. I've been hyping up Sean Ryan a lot too, but Zach Tom's another one of those guys that's got really good athleticism, got some positional versatility to him. I think he's a really interesting round 4 prospect as well to play left guard for the Pats.
We do still need a starting guard, like you just said.
Yeah, we have to remember that we don't have 127 anymore. So we got to take a lineman with one of these 2 picks, either 85 or 91. I think it's got to be a lineman.
On the defensive line, I like Neil Farrell a lot as a nose tackle, but this is such a deep nose tackle class. D'Angelo Malone is still there. I do like D'Angelo Malone, Evan. I do. I don't know that he's going to exactly be that run defender you're looking for, but I think
he's a little bit finesse, right? He's not necessarily. We missed out on all the linebackers. So
there's still some depth guys here. I like Moon. I like Hansford. Hansford could maybe be the guy you're talking about much later.
Scroll up a little. Yeah, Damon Clark is not playing this year, so we missed out on the day 1 impact linebackers. That was the one thing.
Know what? Everybody's impact receiver. There you go.
We need, if we didn't make that splash though at off-ball linebacker, which I'm really fine with. I think we gotta in one of these picks got to be a lineman, and one of these picks got to be a defensive lineman, right?
I think we're going in the trenches here. So you want this whole board right now. We're picking again in 6 picks, and the whole top of the board is offensive linemen. Yeah. If we lose Tom, like Fortner's still here.
I think Tom, Fortner, Ryan. I think all those guys are in a tier. Right. Even Ingram from LSU's got some off-field stuff that you have to look into, but all those guys are level players. So whoever gets to 91, assuming that the board doesn't really screw us and they don't go all in the next 5 picks, I think that's
Right.
fine. So I think we go edge or defensive line here.
Right. So that's what I was going to say. Are those 4 going to go in 5 picks? I'll take the risk, especially like I think Buffalo's drafting a lineman.
Yeah.
I guess the Titans might. We didn't see what they did further up there. So if we're going defensive interior or edge, again, I really like Malone. I would go Malone or Farrell, I think.
Yeah, so Majay Sanders is another interesting player. He was sick at the combine, I think was the story, and he lost a lot of weight. It just was a weird combine for him. But he's a really good edge rusher too. Farrell, I know there's a lot of positive reviews from him, and Senior Bowl guy, somebody that scouts are high on. And Malone, I used this comparison the other day, and I know people are not going to like it, but he reminds me a lot of Derek Rivers coming out, but obviously without the knee and without the injury history and all that kind of stuff. Rivers didn't have an injury history in college, but you just hope that the injuries go better for a guy like D'Angelo Malone than they did for Derek Rivers. He's a little bit more of like a rush linebacker than what I think they truly need in that spot. But I think this might be a little bit early for Farrell. I'm surprised that Majay Sanders is this far down.
Yeah, but he's also, if you want that run stopper, he's not going to be that guy, right?
No,
Sanders?
he's not. He doesn't have. He's not as girthy. I watched him early on in the process. I can go back and look at my notes real quick. He was somebody. Yet I wrote down flashy, explosive, speed off the edge. Right? Not. You're right. Not one of those guys that's that power edge setter.
At the very least, like obviously Farrell's not going to play the role that Kyle Van Noy played. He's not. Completely different player. But he's going to, you could play him at the end on early downs and he can help you set the edge on early downs against the run.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, is kind of what you're looking for.
Yeah, it is.
So I know it's probably a little early. I mean,
I just don't know where else we go here. We could try to get back
like a handful of spots and pick up a day 3 pick.
Yeah, we could try to bridge that gap between 91 and 158 that we made by trading 127, right? That we could potentially try to do something like that.
I mean, right there, 92 and 132 for 85.
I don't mind picking back to back, right? I don't mind that.
I don't mind it.
All right, I don't mind this at all. I think of this, the way that the board broke out at the play. Now we need to, we kind of took the luxury pick with Mechie, right? Like we took the guy there. I think now we need to make sure that we hone in on the needs that they definitely need to fill, which are certainly another playmaker in the front 7 and somebody to play left guard, right? You got to get 2 of those guys out of this. So I think trying to move back here a little bit to reset the board and get it a little bit more in our favor is not a terrible idea.
It's so this would be the deal right here. By the way, just for everybody joining, we took Andrew Booth and John Mechie. Those were our first 2 picks. We traded down from 54. This trade, yep, you like it?
I like it. What? Go
right,
for
now let's
it.
see if those 4 linemen go in a row here. Yes, let me resume. Uh-oh. There it is. Okay, so I think only one of them went. All right, so we did pass on Wandale, but we got John Mechie, so that's okay.
Yes.
Tariq Woolen, who I know people like, but we got Andrew Booth. So, like, if we'd gone lineman early, we would have had those options, and they're good options. But we took care of those needs early in the draft. It's just the way it shakes out. Kirby Joseph's an interesting pick, too. I don't think we're going safety here at this point, but
he's a pure center fielder, which they might need a little bit of, certainly with Devin McCourty getting long in the tooth. But McCourty does so many other things other than just playing over the top, right? I think Kirby Joseph, to me, is like maybe a little bit of a better athlete than Daron Harmon, but is kind of more Daron Harmon than Devin McCourty, right? Because McCourty can play down, he can play corner, he can just play some different spots that I'm not 100% sure that a guy like Kirby Joseph is going to play. I think that they're going to love a guy like Fortner a lot. He's listed as a center here, but I think he can play guard, and he's got that off-field character box check to the 100th, right? I mean, team captain, leader, workhorse in the gym, just one of those guys that loves football and loves to lead, and people gravitate towards him. I would love Luke Fortner here. I think his long-term best position is probably at center. He's a little bit undersized for guard, but they like at left guard a little bit more of a high-end pass protector there, right? They don't want necessarily the bruising run blocker like they've had in Shaq Mason on the right side. Zach Thomas, I think his tape is kind of like an Isaiah Wynn coming out of college in a lot of ways. He has some of those traits to him. He's got some positional versatility. He's a little bit bigger, if I remember correctly, than somebody like Fortner, which might be better in this spot. They also drafted Justin Herron from Wake Forest. So they clearly like that program a little bit on the offensive line. Either one of those guys in this spot, I think, are good picks. I lead towards Tom just because I think that he's more of that tackle guard versatility type of player, whereas Fortner is more like center guard. And I think what they're looking for is more of a guy that can play inside or outside versus playing all three interior spots.
So Tom's actually smaller than Fortner. I mean, it's
is it? I thought Fortner was like
307, but
something like that.
No, he's 307 at the combine.
Interesting.
So,
okay,
and
well,
Ed Ingram is still there too, by the way. I tried to get him to show up here, but
yeah,
so
Ed Ingram got that outfield flag. I forget exactly what it is.
I don't think we're missing anybody else. Marquise Hayes, maybe, but pick your starting guard here, Evan.
Zach Tom.
Who is it? Zach Tom?
Zach Tom. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And there's that. All right. And we have the back-to-back picks, so we don't really have to. That's why I did it like that. I take the offensive side first, whatever. Now let's go over to the defense side. And here's what we have. I think it's between Malone or Farrell. I know it's probably a little bit of a reach for both. I think Malone was so productive in college. He had 17 tackles for loss last season. He had 20 tackles for loss 2 years ago. He just knows how to get in the backfield. I think you can shore him up as a run defender. He's big enough. It's a technique thing. He's not going to make that impact right away. Maybe you're looking for at the position, but in a year or two, I think he can be that guy. Farrell's 330-pound defensive lineman. He's going to come in on first and second down. He's going to stop the run. So it's kind of two different things. Patriots were at both pro days, for what it's worth. They were at both pro days, Western Kentucky and LSU. I could go either way here. I feel
we haven't taken the smaller school guy yet, right? We've got Clemson, Alabama.
So we went Booth,
Mechie, ACC, right?
Yeah,
Booth, Mechie, Zach Tom. So those are Power 5 programs. The Patriots are going to sneak one smaller school prospect in there. D'Angelo Malone feels like it could be it in that direction. It hasn't really worked out a ton with Uche, with Winovich. They've tried to get this type of player. Clearly they see a fit and they see a role for those types of guys in the defense. I don't love the idea of moving Matthew Judon over to the other side. I think he is best as the backside edge, as this basically the Leo, the rush linebacker in their defense. But at a necessity, if they have to move him back over there, he's certainly got the size and the play strength to be able to hold up on the edge, right? So it's not like he can't do it. It's just maybe not the best usage of his skill set.
I wouldn't touch him.
I don't mind D'Angelo here.
Let's just see who else is on the board. So Marcus Jones and Zion McCollum are both really interesting picks here. Marcus Jones,
Marcus Jones
returner in college football.
Yeah, Marcus Jones at this point is interesting for the reasons that we took the pure outside corner and Andrew Booth. I think Marcus Jones is going to, and then he's obviously going to contribute a ton in the kicking game. So he gives you a little bit more of that flexibility at that spot, whereas Booth is just going to play on the boundary, which is nothing wrong with that, but that's just where he's going to play. So if you want to double up at corner, at least with Marcus Jones and with Booth, you have two different styles of corner, certainly. Right. Two different types of corners. Marcus Jones is 5'8". Short guy, short arms, small player. But there are guys in that mold. The one that I keep on thinking of when I see Marcus Jones' name is LaMarcus Joyner, who is around that size. So it's not totally out of the realm to be able to hold up in the NFL at that size.
The other guy I'd say Nick Cross. We talked about there's not a lot of true deep safeties in this class. Nick Cross, true deep safety, tremendous athlete. I think he had the fastest 40 of all the safeties at the combine. Patriots were at his pro day as well at Maryland. I could see. You know what? The more I think about it here, There's more edge rushers down the board we like. Really good nose tackle class. They need help in the secondary. I see people saying Zion McCollum too.
We already picked the outside guy.
We took an outside corner. Like, he could factor in here too, but I could see, I actually like going secondary here and doubling up in the secondary, whether it's Cross or Jones. They don't have depth. They have no depth in the secondary, especially at corner. They just need bodies, right? So,
I mean, Terrence Mitchell and Malcolm Butler are your depth right now, but I'd much rather
Tyreek
take
Woolen
some depth off.
right? Did Tyreek Woolen go? I would
so,
take him here in a second. Yeah, he did. Okay.
Well, he's an outside guy too, though.
Right. But I'm saying, like, if we were going to take McCollum at that point, I would take Woolen.
There are some good corners still on this board too, though, right? Like, you got guys like Flood, you got guys like Jalen Amore Davis from Alabama, Goodrich, Alontae Taylor from Tennessee.
I like what Jones adds as a kick returner too.
They need that role. They need to check that box with Gunnar gone. I think he can return punts too as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but they have Jabril Peppers to at least return punts. Like, he could, in theory. Yes.
Yeah, they could at least throw those guys back there. I don't mind Marcus Jones. I think that's a good pick here.
I think he's the pick, and then we look at 132 at what's there on the defensive line. I would agree with you.
Yeah, we got to get into the front seven. We've kind of neglected the front seven a little bit here, so that's where we're going with these next couple picks.
Well, you also talked about it too, just real quick. You talked about it on the show on Tuesday, or we talked about it. Houston's one of those programs that that teams are going to like this year because they're coming off a run. So let's go Marcus Jones. And then, yes, let's get into the let's see David Bell, by the way, at 94, Evan. I'm old enough to remember when he was a first-round pick. All right, Bailey Zappi's the pick here. No, I'm kidding. All right, so good defensive tackles.
Can we just recap real fast?
Yeah. Do you have the list? Excellent.
Yes. So here we go. This is the draft so far. Andrew Booth, John Mechie, Zach Tom, Marcus Jones. We get the outside starting corner in round 1. We get Max Boy, John Mechie in round 2. Round 3, Zach Tom, day 1 starting left guard, in my opinion. I think he can play right off shoot. Also play tackle, give you some tackle versatility in a pinch. But I think his movement skills out of the stance, his ability to play both guard spots really in this Patriots system. I like that a lot. Zach Tom, there's your guard. Marcus Jones, slot corner, do-it-all corner, really good returner. I think that he's going to be a Patriot guy as well. And there's certainly somebody there, I think, that can be multiple phases.
Right.
So there we go. And now we need to get into the defensive line, I think. But that's the summary of the draft. Booth, Mechie, Tom, Marcus Jones so far.
Yep, that's our top 100, and I feel good about that. I do. I think, and it all feels realistic for them, and I think that it helps you. All right, let's like you said, let's get into the defensive line. So again, Noah Ellis, Ogbania, I think Marquand's still here. Like, you still got defensive tackle options on the board. Sean Ridgway. I think we can. I want to take a defensive tackle. We have 6 picks left. Wait on defensive tackle. Linebacker at this point, I think we're waiting until day 3. On the edge, Isaiah Thomas feels like a pick right here. It's a little bit of a reach, a little bit, but he's got the build for it. I have it right here. 6'5", 266. He's got the run stopping build, but he plays like a pass rusher. And what that tells me is if you coach him up, you can turn him into a 3-down player. I know that sounds simple, but that's the way it works sometimes.
Yeah, Mara Barno for Virginia Tech is the combine pick here, right? He's the guy that had the great athletic testing. I don't know if I necessarily see the refinement that I see with Isaiah Thomas when I flash on the tape with him with Barno, right? I think Thomas is a little bit more technical. I know it's another OU edge rusher, and it's going to be basically, he's Ronnie Perkins all over again. He kind of is, but we're taking him like a round later than when they took Ronnie Perkins. So we're basically hedging our bets there that one of Isaiah Thomas or Ronnie Perkins, one of those Sooners, along with Uche, is going to come out and be a player for the Patriots in the front 7 next year. I don't mind Isaiah Thomas here. I think he's got some of what they're looking for. Like I said, they got to find a guy that can set the edge of the defense for them. I think he can more or less do that. So I don't hate that here.
So the one other thing I would say, if we think maybe he can get to 158, do any of these tackles wow you that you have to get him right now?
No, I know that
Chris
there's
Paul's
a
a
lot
nice
of
player, but
there's a lot of love out there from the North Dakota tackle.
let's go.
Yeah, well, let's go. But I really think that if you're in a pinch and you need a tackle based off the group that you have now, you got Onwenu, you got Tom, who I think can play tackle in a pinch. You got Justin Haran, who did okay at left tackle last year at times when he had to play. I think you got some tackle depth there. We didn't necessarily hit the future left tackle stud of the, Trevor Pennings of the world, right? We didn't get to that in this draft. So they're going to have to look for that next year. But in terms of Isaiah Wynn or somebody like Trent Brown goes down and they need a tackle, I think they got that guy on the roster already with Tom and Onwenu and Heron. So I think we're good at tackle. Dominic Robinson's another good edge rusher too, that could fit what their needs are. So
do you want to go back to Max Small School? Oh, I will point out, we just missed Neil Farrell, which is interesting.
Yeah.
And I think they took Jordan Davis, so that's a weird glitch with the simulator. Huge up front.
Very big. So where do you want to go
Isaiah? I think it's Isaiah Thomas.
Isaiah Thomas?
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
All right. Isaiah Thomas it is. And
not the Celtics Isaiah Thomas or the Knicks Isaiah Thomas.
Shout out. Yeah. So I think as we look here, like I would look. So here we go. Let's check the linebackers again, because it's kind of the one position we haven't really addressed. I don't love any of these guys here. I'll wait and take Moon or Landman or Hansford.
This I know that we might get some crap for the fact that we didn't get a linebacker earlier, but this just feels like, how many times have we gone into the draft and we have said the Patriots absolutely need to draft this position, and then they just don't draft it?
Right, exactly.
Right? Like,
especially, I mean, they added why can't I think of his name from Cleveland?
Mac Wilson.
They added Mac. Like, they may see that as their linebacker draft pick. They may see him. He's young. He's what, 26?
Yeah, they added Mac Wilson. They added Jabril Peppers for that hybrid linebacker role. You're probably going to play Bentley as the early down Mike, and then once you get into passing situations, I think they're going to want to be as much dime as they possibly can be this year, right? You put those safeties out there, you be more flexible, you be faster. I could see that being the approach, but whether it's been wide receiver there's been so many examples where we said corner, wide receiver. We've always been like, oh, they're definitely going to take a guy at this position, and they just don't take one. So this happens all the time.
So can you pull up the list real quick? I just want to see. Yes. We have 5 picks left, including this one, and we've taken what, 5 players?
Yes.
5. So players. The Patriots have taken 10 players in 2 of the last 3 drafts. They're averaging 9 players per draft in the last 10 years, if you take out 2017, because that year was fluky. 10 picks feels about right. I thought we were on pace for 12. I was going to think maybe we trade this pick and pick up future assets. 10, they're going to be at about 9 or 10 picks.
Yeah.
That's, the historical context tells us. So I just want to see where we were at. This currently feels about right. I will say, Evan, I mean, are you feeling pretty good about the draft so far?
I think we got 2 guys in Booth and Tom who will play right away on offense and defense, right? Booth, I think, is going to be a day 1 outside corner for the Patriots. Tom, I think, is going to be a day 1 guard for the Pats. Marcus Jones will contribute on special teams, and then Mechie is the long run pick, right?
So yeah. Some people in the chat are ahead of me where I'm going on this. Feels about right. 5th round.
Yes.
Just outside of the 150.
No, I know where you're going with this.
Feels Ariza feel right here, Evan.
I guess we got to get the nose tackle or some sort of defensive lineman.
We can get a nose tackle later on. I'm not worried about that. I think taking another tackle is big. We know we can go
at this point, tackle. Just to appease you, I just want you to pull up the running back board for a second.
Because you really don't want to take Ariza.
No, I really don't want to take a punter. This feels like a decent spot for a running back too. The Patriots are going to take a running back.
They are.
It drives me nuts, but they're going to take a running back. They got to take a running back, whether it's an early down back like Haskins for the Damian Harris replacement or a James White replacement. that's an honest need. It's definitely a need. We've already kind of hit as much as we can on the other needs that we have at this point. So running back is not a terrible idea here either. We're also talking about a separation of 12 picks here from 158 and 170. So I guess it also just depends on if we go punter running back here, it's a little bit tough for me to stomach. I'm not going to lie. But
Evan, I know we're trying to project what they would do.
We have to sneak Ariza in here for one mock draft for you. I know. And this was the one that I said that you were going to be in the driver's seat. So,
well, here's the thing. You said that about the early picks, and generally you're more in the driver's seat early on. I'm more in the driver's seat later. So I figured that would kind of switch. Yeah. I love the idea of Haskins. I think you can get him at 170. I think he can.
Yeah.
And if you don't, right. Sincere McCormick's another guy. I think another lineman here makes a ton of sense. I do. I think Cade Mays here. I think he's a guy they'd reach for. I think you had your bets on Zach Tom as a potential starting guard.
I was going to say that with one of those picks in the 200s was definitely going to be another offensive lineman. They're going to double up on the offensive lineman for sure.
I would do it now. I think it's a need now. It's a need long-term. I think they would push it. I think Cade Mays makes a ton of sense here.
Okay, so if we take a lineman here, though, then we got to go defense running back. You're not getting your punter, is my point.
So I know I'm not. Well, I'm not getting Ariza. We might get a different one.
No, you're not getting the punter.
No, because what they're going to do is I'm going to get all hyped about Matt Ariza, and they're going to take Carmada from Georgia. That's what's going to happen.
Okay.
We take a lineman here, Haskins at 170, D-tackle linebacker with those last two picks, and then we have a freebie if we find.
You don't think so? I like Mays. We took Mays in an earlier mock, though. We've already taken him once. Cordell Volson, I don't know if we've taken him yet.
We did, I think.
Did we take him in the first one?
I think so. I want to try to get a true guard, just in case.
But Zach Tom is a true guard.
Didn't he play tackle last year?
He played tackle, but he's going to be a guard in the league. I mean,
I'm saying somebody who's played guard. I want to take somebody who's played guard.
Okay, I guess Zach Tom to me is like Joe Tooney, right? He played college tackle, and then we're moving him to guard.
Okay.
So,
well, then do any of these tackles stand out to you in terms of upside?
Cordell Wilson is the guy that I like. He's the one that's big, physical, people-moving right tackle, right? Trent Brown, Mike Onwenu, those guys are the guys that they've had over there. I think Volson's like 330. You know, he's a big, big boy, right? That guy moves bodies off the line of scrimmage. He doesn't have the best range. He doesn't have the best footwork, but he's 6'6", 315 pounds. So that is a big human, and he's got power. He's got the ability to leverage. He's got all those types of things. So I think in terms of if they look at him at a right tackle spot, then I think that definitely fits their right tackle mold and a guy like Cordell Volson.
All right, Volson, you talked me into it. Then Volson's the pick, yeah?
All right. 5th round, Cordell Volson. I like it. He's moved up the board a little
bit. For what it's worth, Ariza would have been a good pick there, for what it's worth.
Honestly, it would have. I'm not going to disagree with you. We had already kind of missed the boat on backers, and, you know, we're going late with the D tackles. At that point in the draft, we kind of were in a little bit of a luxury situation that we could have taken Ariza. I'll give it to you.
So I think you kind of talked about it before, and I said, let's wait a little bit. And I don't know that Volson was going to fall here. Haskins gives you insurance for both Damian Harris. He's going to come NFL ready, gives you insurance for Harris and Ramondre Stevenson. If you want to move Ramondre Stevenson to more of an early down role,
Haskins made it to 170?
Yeah.
Yeah, great pick here, I think.
Yeah, Michigan guy, big battering ram running back. Damian Harris in a contract year. Look, I think they're more likely to pay him than a lot of running backs in the past. He's taken a leadership role in the team. He's clearly very close with Robert Kraft. I think there's a chance he sticks around. I don't think that they're going to bet on that and pass on taking a running back. I think
I think that he's one of those guys, Damian Harris, that people around the league, he might not get the attention that some of the other running backs do league wide. You know, he's not Derrick Henry. He's not Nick Chubb. He's not one of those guys. But smart general managers around the league are going to realize how good of a back Damian Harris is when he hits free agency next year. So I think that they're going to have to compete for him if they're going to want to keep him. He's going to be looking at, I think, like a pretty decent contract. You know, running backs are tough to to predict exactly what the contracts are going to be, but I think you're looking at a nice running back deal for a guy like Damian Harris. So Haskins, I watched a little bit of him. He's not electric, right? He's not a special runner with the football, but he gets what's blocked. He's like, to me, he's like kind of like a bigger Ben Jarvis Green Ellis, right? Like he's not, he's bigger than Ben Jarvis Green Ellis, if I am not mistaken. But
you know what he is? And they love this kind of back. He doesn't lose yards.
Exactly.
He's not going to.
That's why it's out of the law firm, right? Because he was never a guy that lost yards behind the line of scrimmage. He was always downhill. He was always getting into positive territory, but wasn't necessarily like Damon Harris or Ramondre Stevenson, where you're like, wow, that's a special runner.
By the way, Haskins, 6'2", 228, put up 27 on the bench.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
Hassan Haskins is the kind of back that averages 4 yards a carry because he runs for 4 yards on every carry. Right?
Yeah.
He's not going to run for 20 and then lose 2 and lose 3 and then run for 15 and then run for 1. He's going to get you 4 yards every time he touches the football. They absolutely love that back. He went to Michigan.
Yeah.
He feels like
I already wrote the name on the sheet. We're already picked.
So Hassan Haskins is. Plus, had we done Michigan yet?
I don't think so. We might. We haven't taken Dax Hill yet, right?
No, we didn't take him.
Yeah. All right, Marquand McCall is there. This is done.
Yeah,
I don't even need to talk
that's
about
easy. Marquand McCall. I'll give the background. Marquand McCall, defensive tackle from Kentucky, 2 down, step in, stop the run kind of guy. He's not going to give you anything on third. 6'2". He played last year at 387 pounds.
Yeah,
he's taken weight off to try to just be able to play more and be healthier. He came into the combine at 344. That's probably going to be his NFL weight. If you want a guy to just sit in the middle of the field, neat blocks, Marquand's the guy. And if they're going to be smaller at linebacker, they need that guy. There's a couple other guys like this in the draft. Noah Ellis is one. I saw some people mentioning him in the chat.
John Ridgway is another from Arkansas.
Right.
Those guys are good as well. I like McCall the best in terms of his pass rush upside. I'm not saying that he's going to be a big time pass rusher by any means, but he showed, was it the Shrine Bowl that he was at, right?
Shrine Bowl, yeah. I think he was the player of the week at the Shrine Bowl.
Yeah. He showed some get off. Like when you watch him on tape too at Kentucky, he's not as slow out of the stance as you would expect. When you're that big, you don't really expect any type of first step explosiveness whatsoever. With McCall, he's got a little bit of it. Like the one shortcoming that I saw with him was length. He doesn't have the longest arms or the longest upper body. He's very, he's big below the waist.
Right.
And that helps in terms of anchoring and being able to do those types of things. But because he doesn't have the arm length, he doesn't have that ability to really press out and shed blocks and make impact plays. But he's got such a great ability to absorb contact. And having a guy like that will make it easier on the linebackers. It will make it easier for guys like Christian Barmore to just go ahead and get the football and not be so worried about gap integrity and holding the line of scrimmage. And when you play teams like Buffalo, you put McCall on the field on first down. And now when they're running all those RPOs and all those different types of run pass schemes, now you can probably stop the run with 4 or 5 guys, and you can get guys into passing lanes. You can contain Josh Allen. That was, I think, such a big problem they had last year was that Godshaw, Lawrence Guy, they just were too soft up the middle of the defense. And they couldn't stop the run with only 5 guys, right? And that was a big reason why Buffalo was just able to do whatever they wanted against them. So I think Marquand will give them that option to be a little bit more sturdy up the middle.
So here's what I'd say about a couple things you said about McCall. First off, the athleticism. When you learn how to do everything at 390 pounds and then suddenly you weigh 340, you're going to feel pretty light on your feet.
Yeah.
There's been other instances of this in the NFL or all sports, really, where guys lose weight and they suddenly become more athletic because they're just so used to it. The other thing about McCall, I'm trying to think how to put this lightly, the short arm thing. You may want to revisit that when he can get his arms a little further away from the edge of his body, if that makes sense. He measured at the combine with 33-inch arms.
That's interesting. He didn't play with that. I just pulled it up and he's above average.
Because again, Evan, think about how far he had to reach to get beyond his frame.
That's fair.
That's not necessary. It's not as much of the case now. He's lost 50 pounds, 40 pounds.
He's also one of those guys, like you said, he's already lost weight. Once the Patriots throw him on the hills and then their strength and conditioning program, I think he's going to be in even better shape. They might actually, he said he's at around 340 right now. He weighed what,
344 at the combine.
342.
Down from 387.
I wouldn't be surprised if they have him play closer to 325, 330. I think that's exactly where Danny Shelton was a couple years ago, is like 325. So I think that there's going to be some options there. Yeah, Marquand McCall, great pick here.
We said we didn't need to explain it, and then we spent 10 minutes explaining it, but we both really like the player.
Yeah.
Another guy who's an interesting fit, more the athletic defensive tackle. I just want to highlight him. Talked about Michigan, Christopher Hinton. His dad was an all-pro offensive guard for the Colts. Just another name to know. That's why we're doing this. It's part of the game.
So is Matt Araiza still on the board?
Let's say he falls, and I don't think he gets this far at all.
No, he's not going to get this.
You know what? I'm not even going to. We're not taking him because it's not realistic at this point. It's not realistic. We're not going to do it.
We could go back and so in 2020 when they took on Wendy, right? On Wendy Horan. We could double dip on defensive linemen here. They took that double dip on the offensive line in the 6th round. This would be a defensive line double dip. I don't hate
the
that.
One thing I'd say, we still take a linebacker, right?
I think Nate Landman here is a really good pick.
I think Nate Landman. I think Jeremiah Moon's really interesting. Have you studied him yet?
Not yet. I've done Landman, and he's a lot faster to the football than what I think people give him credit for, because he looks at things really quickly. Like he processes the game very quickly. So although he doesn't time fast, he's one of those guys that's he's not meant for the combine, right? You got to turn on the tape with Nate Landman. He's also got the special teams box checked. He's a leader, captain at Colorado. He's somebody that I played a lot faster once I got into his tape study a little bit more than what I was expecting. But if you like Jeremiah Moon too, I've heard some things about him being an interesting player as well.
So do you want to throw the board up too real quick? Because people are asking about who we have and haven't taken. So here's what we'll do. Let me give you the background on all three of these guys, and then you can make the pick. You have a pretty good idea on Landman, but for everybody else, a multi-year captain at Colorado, 100 tackle guy in 2018 and 2019, tore his Achilles in 2020, came back, made 60 tackles last year in 7 games. 6'2", 230, surprisingly athletic. His coverage skills are pretty much based on football IQ. He's not going to, cover in man, but he can do a decent job in zone. He can play sideline to sideline. He's kind of maxed out. He is what he is. He's going to be a rotational third down linebacker. He's going to play on special teams. He's going to be a solid contributor on special teams. He's going to be a leader in the locker room. That's Nate Landman. Jeremiah Moon from Florida didn't play a ton for the first 3 years as a pure edge guy. Last year, they had him splitting his time between outside and middle linebacker. He showed some impressive ability. He's a really good athlete. He's more of a chase down tackler than a play reader at this point, but that can obviously be learned. It's really the athleticism, the size, the versatility, and you're going to try to coach him up as a linebacker. Aaron Hansford, converted wide receiver. Actually went to A&M as a wide receiver. He's played linebacker for 3 years. His game's pretty raw technically, but again, he's got good size. He's a good athlete. He can get eaten up at times in blocks and trying to tackle because he's still new to it. At this point, you're taking project players, so that makes, he kind of fits. He might have the highest upside of these 3 guys. I'd say it's a draw between him and Moon, but he feels like their kind of guy. And they met with him. They met with him I think twice. I believe they met with him twice at the Senior Bowl and at the Combine. So who do you like of those 3, I guess?
I like Landman. I do. I think that they tend to lean towards guys a little bit like Juwan Bentley, but I think maybe, different from Bentley in a lot of ways, but in terms of processing and mental makeup, I think they look at the linebacker position and still think that block anticipation, processing, those things I think they feel are still important, right? And more important than maybe some of the raw measurable stuff. I think that's why I lean towards Landman in this group, because the other 2 guys are better athletes, right? They have more upside in terms of athleticism. But I think the Patriots still feel like inside linebacker is a feel and instinct position. You still have to have some semblance of instincts and feel for the game there. And if you don't have that, then you can be that sideline to sideline athlete, and it's not going to matter. So that's why I like Landman out of this group.
And I'll tell you what, that, the biggest thing that sticks out to me about Landman, and by the way, Landman's one of my guys. I keep a list on my phone of guys during the fall who stand out when I'm watching college football. It was about 60 players, right? And then I add to the list as we do the pre-draft process, but I had Landman on my list. I really liked him. And exactly what you just said stands out. He's 6'2", 240, ran a 4.8, 640, but he plays faster than that because his instincts are just so good.
Yeah.
He can get himself where he needs to be. He knows where he needs to be so quick that it looks like he's faster than he is because he makes the adjustments so quickly and he gets himself in position so quickly. So I wouldn't hate Jeremiah Moon here as the pick. Hansford, I wouldn't be against. He's more a guy if they trade down late 6th, early 7th, I think is more the fit. But Nate, again, I found Nate Landman when people thought he wasn't going to get drafted. So I'm all in on Nate Landman if you want to pull the PFF board back up. And so now we have, I think we've actually, why don't you pull the other board back up? Because let's see, I think we've pretty much covered everything we want to cover, right?
So we drafted Nate Landman, right?
Yeah.
All right. Writing that down. Let's make this last pick and then we can run through the board.
Well, so is there anything we wanted to address we haven't addressed? Right. And I know people say the Patriots don't draft for need. The report from Mike Reese this year is that's kind of going to be the plan.
Yeah. The only other thing that I could maybe entertain, I don't know what's even available at 258 in the wide receiver department. I don't know if we would consider doubling up it there as well, just because they just don't really have anybody under contract after next year. EJ Perry, no.
Let's go through all the positions. Let's have some fun with this.
Okay. I mean, right now we're picking at 258. De'Aaron King here is not. I mean, I think he's a UDFA, but
they met with him. They met with him. So De'Aaron King is one of the most fascinating players in college football. I thought he was going to win the Heisman last year.
Yeah.
He was the 8th string quarterback in high school, became the top quarterback recruit in the state of Texas, went to Houston. He was behind, who was it? Greg Ward, who was now a wide receiver for the Eagles, was a great quarterback in college. Played wide receiver. King did. Played 2 years at wide receiver, was pretty good. Moved to quarterback, had a record-setting season, got hurt, transferred to Miami, had another great season, got hurt again. Here we are. He's going to be 26 when the season starts. They met with him. As a practice squad guy for the scout team, he makes a lot of sense. As a potential wide receiver, he makes a lot of sense. Like you said, I think he goes undrafted. I think the fact they met with him, maybe they can get him in the building. Maybe they already know they can grab him if he doesn't get drafted.
Yeah, I mean, I hate the whole, they did this sort of 7th round Julian Edelman, right, all over again. That's what's going to happen if they take De'Aaron King here. Right, everybody's going to think he's Julian Edelman. But it does make sense in that mold, right? It does make sense in that thought process. Right. Like, we don't know where you're going to play necessarily, but we know you're a football player and we'll see what we can do with you. The only other position that I don't think that we've addressed here that we could have potentially addressed was safety. But at this point,
let's go through all the positions and rapid fire that we did miss. Caleb Ellaby. Ellaby is like the Mac version of Mac Jones. If they're going to move on from Stidham, he interesting.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Wide receiver.
We're not taking Clay Bolden.
Devin you know my deal on Devin Tompkins. Fastest player in the draft, but he's 5'6", 150 pounds.
No need.
Nobody else. There's some undrafted guys that are interesting. They're not even on the simulator. Tight end. I mean, Connor Hayward's an interesting pick here.
We did this last time, didn't we?
Did we?
I think so.
Okay. So we'll move on then. We could take a running back. We could take a pass catching back. Treston Ebner, my guy, still here.
I think at this point you could probably get him as a UDFA, right?
Probably get him as a UDFA. You're right. I mean, Andrew Huber is a Michigan guy.
Yeah. Vidarian Lowe at this point too.
Really like Vidarian Lowe.
Yeah, Dare Rosenthal's still on the board here as well. I think he's going to be long gone by now. But there are some interesting tackles. We just took Volson though, so we already double dipped on offensive linemen.
They've taken multiple offensive linemen in 14 of 22 years under Bill. They might take 3.
Yeah.
None of the guards interest me. Corner, like Jalen Watson's an interest. Like he's the zone corner.
I think
so he's kind of
I think he's more of a zone guy. Yeah.
He's a good athlete. He's just really, really raw.
Yeah.
Maybe. Again, he's a guy I think they're more comfortable with as UDFA. I don't love any of these safety. I don't even know any of these guys, honestly, at safety.
Yeah, no, we missed out on the safeties. All right,
Look, we said we're going to go Davidson. We already took our nose tackle, but he's another one of those guys. I just want people to see the bottom of the board. How often do you get to see the bottom of the board? Okay. Myron Tagovailoa Amosa. This is Tua's cousin.
Tua's cousin.
Yeah, it is. He's the run defender you want. He's the run edge defender you want, Evan. He's very raw. He also captain. He's got all the leadership accolades. He's the guy you want. He's the guy you've been talking about. Christopher Allen's another really interesting one. His standout season in Alabama, he had 11 tackles for loss, 6 sacks. But he only played 16 games in 4 years. He's hurt all the time. Missed the entire season last year. So those are 2 guys to know. I'm going to run through this and make you make the pick. Inside linebacker, Josh Ross, but he's a team captain at Michigan. He's a 2-down linebacker. He's too small to play downhill in the NFL, but he can play special teams. Again, team captain, Michigan, if we're being the Patriots. And Jordan Stout, I could see it. Punter, kicked in the Northeast. They might need a punter. So, who do you like? Who do you like? I just ran through all the options.
Derek King.
I think Tua's cousin's a better bet here. They can get King undrafted.
All right, I'll give in to Tua's cousin or the punter. I haven't let you take a punter yet, so I feel like if I let you take a punter, then maybe
I'm not blowing it in this draft. I'm saving that one for Ariza. I think Odom was actually an interesting prospect too, but he's more pressure. I think it would be Tua's cousin or who's the one other guy? Or Josh Ross. If we want to double up at middle linebacker, boost special teams, again, Michigan, captain, all of that. They generally don't take.
We're taking Tua's
Notre
cousin.
Dame guys. We're taking Tua's cousin. All right, we're taking
Tua's cousin.
I just want to hang on. Let me look at one thing. I want to make sure this isn't one of those fluke things where he's you're way too late because I'm not entirely sure what his range is. Yeah, people mock him in the 6th or 7th. This feels about right. Okay, maybe a little late, but boy, the NFL hates Tua. Maybe he falls by association.
Should I just write Tua's cousin in 7th round here?
I don't butcher his name. I know that kind of sounded disrespectful. I was honestly doing that out of respect. I'm gonna have this up. You can just pull up the PFF version in a second here, Evan.
All right, here's our draft board. I'm putting Tua's cousin for the time being because I can't for the life of me type that name out off memory. So Andrew Booth Jr. at the top. I think we just got our J.C. Jackson CB1 outside corner replacement, stud player at Clemson, great ball skills, man zone, man match, zone match, whatever you want to do with him. Andrew Booth Jr. can do it. Go out there, has the athleticism to mirror and match number ones on the outside. That's the type of guy that the Patriots need, right? That's the one that we're all thinking about. That's the one that we all want in terms of corners. We get it with Andrew Booth here, trying to get this to cooperate.
Yeah.
Okay, there we got it. Then 2nd round here, we traded back a little bit just to make sure that we got some good value here in the 2nd round. We took John Mechie. I think John Mechie, to me, makes so much more sense in a post-DeVante Parker world where the Patriots no longer need to rush him back from the knee injury, but they still know that they have him in their back pocket. This is the pick that you make to pair Mac Jones with the guy that he loves for the next 5 to 10 years. This is a long play at this spot. I think we had the luxury to do it here based off of some of the offseason things that they've done, like DeVante Parker, like Mac Wilson, like Jabril Peppers, John Mechie. I just think that this makes too much sense now that they have some depth at wide receiver, that they can ease him into this and bring him on in 2023 in a full-time capacity. In a lot of ways, maybe this means the end of like Jacoby Myers, maybe even more so than Nelson Aguilar, right?
I would agree with that.
Myers also a UDFA at the end of the year, playing on the restricted free agent tender. You look at that and you move on there. It certainly would probably mean the end from Aguilar at least. Zach Tom.
Well, real quick on Mechie too. The other thing I'd say about that one, I saw a lot of people saying this during the draft, and it's not a horrible point bringing up that Mechie and Bourne, there's a lot of overlap there. And again, totally fair point. But I think the thing with players like that is they're so versatile that you can have more than one of them. on the field at the same time, right? You can play Mechie in the
neither
slot,
one of those
Bourne
guys
outside.
Wes Welker, right? Neither one of those guys
Right.
needs to play full-time slot.
So
They can both move around. Mechie at Alabama, especially in that Auburn game against Roger McCreary, played a ton on the outside and went up against one of the better cover guys in draft on the outside and did pretty well, especially late in that game. I think Mechie can play inside and outside. I think that when you look at the way they want to build their offense, they want to be, I think, in a lot of ways, a little bit more spread and having a lot of routes, vertical routes out of the slot. I think you're going to see an offense that's going to run multiple guys out of the slot at a time, whether it's 3x1s or, having different ways, stacks, bunches, those types of things. I think you're going to have a lot of guys trying to run two-way goes, right? Trying to be inside and have the whole field to work with.
So, yeah, kind of like you're saying there, I think you can use them in different ways. And when you mentioned Jacoby Myers on a contract year, Nelson Aguilar's on a contract year, in theory, you come back at the very least, and they could realistically add to this, but you come back in 2023 at the very least with DeVante Parker, John Mechie, Kendrick Bourne. That's a good group. That's a pretty good group. And then you'll have money to add to that next year. So everybody who said, I meant to address at the time, everybody who said there was overlap between Mechie and Bourne, you're not wrong, but I don't think that precludes them from taking a guy like John Mechie. I actually think that allows them to get a little more creative offensively.
Yeah, no, I like that too. Zach Tom, I don't know why they gave us an F for this. They had on
they don't like linemen.
The big board has him at 92. We took him at 91, and PFF somehow gives us an F for a guy that
they don't. I'll tell you why. Because they haven't listed as a tackle, and in their mind, the Patriots have 2 starting tackles. We took a player who won't start at 91. That's why it gave us an F.
Okay, well, he's going to start at left guard. So
if he's in there at guard, I mean, it still probably gives us a C because it's PFF. But
yeah. So the Patriots, this is what they do, especially at that left guard spot, whether it was Logan Mankins, whether it was Joe Tooney, those 2 guys and Zach Tom, all 3 of those guys are college tackles that are going to move inside to guard in the NFL. Tom is one of those players. He's also played and he started 37 games at Wake Forest. Tons of, experience, tons of reps at Wake Forest, which is important on the offensive line. He's also one of those guys that's played all 4 spots besides center. He can play anywhere on the offensive line, right side, left side, tackle, guard. I think that's the type of guy that they're looking for in that spot. Not necessarily the interior trio versatility like Ted Karras, right? He could play center in either guard spot. I think more importantly in this draft, the tackle guard, I think is something that they're going to look at, especially with Trent Brown and Isaiah Wynn's injury risks. They might need to have multiple backups play tackle at some point in the game. I think Tom can play tackle and kick out in a pinch, but most importantly, ideally, a really athletic, a really good starting left guard for the Patriots. I think Tom is one of those guys, you plug him in, he could be a guard for his entire rookie contract, and if they want to pay him, probably longer than that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There you go.
Marcus Jones. Do you want to start?
Oh, you waiting for me? Yeah. We don't really have any format for this. Marcus Jones. Yeah. So Marcus Jones is a unanimous All-American defensive back, by the way. I see people knocking him in coverage. All-American unanimous defensive back.
Fantastic ball skills.
Yeah. I mean, total ball hawk.
I think he had like 20 interceptions or something like that in college.
Yeah. He led the AAC in pass deflections last year. He was tied for lead in picks. He's like what, 5'8", 170?
He's a little bit bigger than that. He's like 5'8", 180, but yeah,
here's the point. If he's slightly bigger, if he's like 2 inches taller and 10 pounds heavier, he's a first-round pick, and nobody thinks twice about it.
Yeah, he's 5'8", 175.
I think 5'8", 175. They'll bulk him up. They'll get him to 180, 185. He plays bigger than that. He's a willing tackler. Jonathan Jones in a contract year. We saw what happened late last season when they don't have a starting caliber slot corner. I'm not telling you Marcus Jones is going to go play on the outside and man up Stephon Diggs and man up Devontae Adams. You don't need him to. That's why we drafted Andrew Booth. He's going to play in the slot. Here's what Marcus Jones is going to do. Marcus Jones is going to run step for step with Isaiah McKenzie, which nobody on the roster could do last year, right? And then on top of all of that, he's got 9 career return touchdowns. It's 6 on kickoffs, 3 on punts. He had 2 of each last year. Electric returner. I think it's a bit much, but NFL.com compared him to Dante Hall. I think Dante Hall is the single greatest kick returner of all time. Hester had a better career. Hall was better at his peak. Again, I think that's extreme, but that's the kind of returner you're talking about. So you fill two needs. You get a tremendous athlete. Everybody's complaining he's too small. A lot of the same people, and I remember some of you in the chat, a lot of you are the same people complaining that they're not fast enough on defense. You're not going to get a 6'4", 250-pound guy that runs a 4.3. They're not drafting Jordan Davis, okay? Marcus Jones gives you the speed on defense. He gives you a potential replacement for John Jones. He's going to help you in a kicking game. No brainer. Yeah. And we got him for a little bit of value there. That's probably right in his range, but I wouldn't be surprised if he moves up into the 80s. I think that might be my favorite pick of this whole draft. And I love John Mechie, but that might be my favorite pick of this whole draft.
Every single tape that I watched of Marcus Jones, he was just absolutely battling his butt off against somebody, right? I mean, he did not give up any easy completions. He's all over his man. He's got great ball skills, strappy corner, plays man well. You mentioned the return ability. He also had, I think, quite a few. I have it here. I'll try to scroll down here quickly. 10 catches for 109 yards.
Yeah, he played a little receiver sometimes too.
Yeah, they used him on like receiver, on like those, like a Devin Hester package, right? Like jet sweeps and screens and stuff like that. I don't know if the Patriots will necessarily go there. I don't think they necessarily have to, but it's
he's a natural with the ball in his hands.
Yeah, I mean,
natural when he's carrying the football.
It's another way to make the team and or to have an impact. Obviously, the top 100 guys can make the team.
Right.
It's another way to make an impact. We have talked about it a lot, and I think it's on everybody's radar to a degree, but the Patriots let Gunnar Olszewski walk. They've been reluctant, I think, in the past to put Kyle Duggar back there. They've had Jacoby Myers fill in. They had, let's not ever do this again. They had N'Keal Harry 1 or 2 times go back there for punts as well. They need to get a guy that can return punts. It's just, they need to, unless they're going to have Duggar or Jabril Peppers back there. They need somebody that can return punts. I think Marcus Jones comes in and is your day one primary punt returner. And I don't think that that's a need that they're going to sleep on a whole lot. He's going to have better contributions. Yeah, and kick returner. He's going to have better contributions on defense too. So I'm not saying that he's just a return guy, but that's certainly something that will help them out as well.
Yeah, whoever mentioned Treston Ebner in the chat, by the way, good pull. He could also do that. But we took Marcus Jones, so he's going to do it. Isaiah Thomas, I kind of said this when we took him. It sounds like a really simple evaluation. It's kind of how I feel about him. He's an edge player. He's probably going to be a linebacker. Like he'd be an end in some defenses, an outside linebacker in others. I think he's an outside linebacker with the Patriots. What I see, he's like 6'4", 266. He's built like a run defender. But he plays like a pass rusher. Those are generally the guys he's a bit of a project, but those are the guys you can turn into 3-down players. He can maybe be a Kyle Van Noy replacement kind of guy. He could maybe play that role. He might be a year away, but you patch it for a year. Maybe you move Josh Uche over the other side. Maybe it's Ronnie Perkins, something like that. I like his upside. I do. I think he's going to be, at the very least, a situational pass rusher for you. He'll cover kicks. And in 2 or 3 years, he could be a 3-down, 80% usage rate linebacker.
Yeah, long guy, right? Long guy, good strides around the corner, a good length to try to press the pocket. He rushes the passer the way that they would want somebody to rush the passer. He's not he's not Chase Winovich, right? He's not blowing his assignment and coming and screaming off the edge. He's doing a little bit more of that pocket pushing presence and things like that. So I think that's going to be a pick that they're going to look at. Edge. It's something that I keep on banging the table for. I think it could be even higher than this if they like somebody at better value, but someone that can play, that has the girth, that has the size, that has the power in his hands and in his upper body to be able to play strong side edge is going to be important. Thomas is 6'5", 266. So he definitely has the girth and the strength and the size to be able to hold up there. So I think that's a good pull right there.
Yeah. Volson, that was all of your picks. I'll let you.
Monster, big guy, power blocker, right tackle prospect for the Patriots. He doesn't have good range. He does not have great mirroring of pass rushers. But the one thing that I like about this specifically is you have Trent Brown. And last year, a lot of people in the locker room talked about how much they learned from Trent Brown, right? Some of those younger guys picking Trent Brown's brain, studying Trent Brown with studying pass rushers, breaking things down with him, learning technique tricks and things like that. Cordell Volson has a very similar, not quite as big as Trent, but a similar build to Trent Brown, 6'6", 320 pounds. So really good player to learn from, right? It's basically, you couldn't pick a better guy to mentor Cordell Volson than Trent Brown. They have a very similar skill set, and I think that's going to be a good mentor for him, and we'll see how it goes. But the Patriots love those power right tackles. They want somebody that can double team, that can move guys off the line of scrimmage, that can be heavy over there, and he certainly can do that.
There you go. Hassan Haskins. I think a back there makes sense with Damian Harris in a contract year, and you can never be too deep at that position. Obviously, they lost Brandon Bolden in free agency. 6'2", 229, fall forward running back, doesn't lose yards, doesn't lose the football. He's bowling ball. They like those guys. He's the kind of back they really like. He went to Michigan. It makes a ton of sense. Marquand, big dude, 6'2", 340 and change. Early down run stopper, is going to bully people. I'm kind of flying through these last ones. You tell me if you want to cut in.
Yeah, he's just a block eater. He just absorbs contact, just takes on a bunch of contact. We didn't get the linebacker early on in this draft.
Wait, one more thing on Marquand, actually, I meant to say before. Yeah. Last year, a lot of people talked about DeVante Parker maybe being a bust of a signing. DeVante Parker played his best football when he was playing on the end, when he was playing 3-4 end, right? McCall allows you to play him out there more.
Yeah,
so
when they get
not only do you get a good
backups against some of these bigger physical run teams that they will see in the AFC, like Tennessee and the teams like that, they can go with that big defensive line of Guy, Godshaw, and Marquand, McCall, and you're going to be really difficult to run against. Like, it doesn't even matter.
Right.
Second level.
It's going to be hard to move those guys. Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't get the linebacker, and we're going to transition here to Nate Landman. But my point with the linebacker was, we didn't get the early draft top 100 linebacker, but if you take a guy like McCall later on in the draft, or a nose tackle like that, then if you do draft a Nakobe Dean, if you do draft a Christian Harris, if you do draft somebody along those lines, you have block eaters on the defensive line, which is going to be critical. So whether the draft breaks down just like this or it doesn't, we got McCall there, and I think he's a player that will be on their radar.
Yep. And then we keep going. Landman. And I think he's special. I think they'll just love him. Again, multi-year captain. He'll cover kicks. Like, I could see him. He may never play linebacker in New England. I could still see him being a success. I could see him coming in, covering kicks for 8-10 years, basically being Nate Ebner. Like, it's totally in his game. I think he could develop into a starting linebacker. Like, I truly believe he could. I mean, not a starting, but like a guy who plays significant role.
Yeah.
But at the very least, I think you get a guy who can be a core special teamer through multiple contracts. And then Myron Tagovailoa Mosa. Evan wanted a big edge setting run defender. We got a big, I want to pull up his size. I don't think we said it before, but we got a potential big rush setting end defender, another big chemistry guy, team leader. Yeah. Evan, 6'2", 270, 33-inch arms. He's a player run. So he does.
Yeah.
So there you go. And, so if you want to say anything about those guys, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. You did a good job there.
I was going to say, for the first time us doing this, we actually picked some UDFAs too. I have the list here. I want to tell me if I missed anybody from those conversations we were having at the end. Derek King, Derek King, quarterback, wide receiver from Miami. Treston Ebner, running back from Baylor. Linebacker Josh Ross from Michigan. Linebacker Christopher Allen from Alabama. Cornerback Jalen Watson, Washington State. Offensive tackle Vidarian Lowe. Was there anybody else?
No, that's a good list, though. I don't think Vidarian Lowe is going to make it to UDFAs, but
I'll take him off the list then when I put it on Twitter.
Yeah,
you're probably right.
I like your guy Treston Ebner. I've come around on running back.
Have you watched him yet?
I haven't watched him, but I have watched enough of him to know kind of what his skill set is. You know, I wouldn't say I have done a complete study on him, but I'm going to get to running backs probably right before the draft. It's like kind of the last position I'm going to tackle. They're going to draft a running back, whether it's a guy like Haskins in the big back role. I really like, is it Batty or Beatty? Tyler Beatty from, Missouri. I like him too earlier on in the draft, and they want to go like last year. They took Ramondre in the 4th round. Like, it kind of seems like when it starts, right? James White was also a 4th round pick. So it kind of seems like the 4th round, day 3 is where we start to talk about running backs for the Patriots.
I know who we missed from that UDFA list. Jordan Stout, punter, Penn State.
Oh my goodness.
Was the other one. So
okay.
There you
So
go.
the one thing that I feel like we didn't get into in this draft is the impact front 7 player in the top 100, right? We didn't get a linebacker. We didn't get a defensive lineman to move the needle there in the top 100. I think we kind of tried to tackle it later on with Thomas and McCall and Landman. So we tried our best to make up for it. That's the one spot that the board kind of got away from us and we sort of missed. So if there's one pick that I would probably swap out or want to try to redo it, it's probably Marcus Jones to try to get a linebacker. I like where we got Marcus Jones. I like the player and everything like that. But the Patriots probably going to look at this and hope that they can get an impact front 7 guy in the top 100, right? I think that's still a spot that they have to hit. But all in all, I think this is one of our better ones yet because Booth at 21 is the best player we've drafted so far in any of the mocks. Correct. Right? He's the most talented player we've gotten so far in a mock. Love Mechie now. I loved him before, but I love him even more now. Zach Tom, day 1 starter at guard for the Patriots. So I think we got at least 2 day 1 starters in Booth and Zach Tom. We got an impact special teamer in Marcus Jones, which will help them out in the 3rd round. And then Mechie is the upside long-term pick. And hopefully that one pans out. So I know you might love it, you might hate it, but I think we're realistic here. I think we hit some realistic notes, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah, this feels like a very Patriots draft, which again is ultimately the goal. So they don't really take Notre Dame guys. That would be the one stretch there at the end, but they never taken a Clemson guy either, and we took Booth. So
yeah.
I think last year was a trend breaking draft, and Matt Groh's back in the driver's seat. So maybe it's trend breaking again.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you can be upset about Andrew Booth. That he is a fantastic college football player that has great athleticism and traits. I don't know. I think that's a really good player that there's some volatility with that with the Patriots. Some people love him, some people hate him as a Patriot fit. I don't know. He's a really good football player. He's one of my favorite corners in this draft. Stingley is my number 1. Sauce is number 2. I'm a little bit contrary, and I think Andrew Booth Jr. is the 3rd best corner in the draft. I know a lot of people really like Trent McDuffie. I look at Trent McDuffie, and I see a guy that gives up a lot of catches but makes a lot of tackles, right? I don't know if he has the ball skills and the shutdown ability that Andrew Booth does. A lot of the highlights that you look at with Trent McDuffie are him streaking across the field and making tackles on guys for short gains, right? I mean, that's good too. Right. It's a good trade to have. He's almost a safety at that point, though, right? I mean, it's kind of like the Logan Ryan, Jalen Mills conversation, right? Like, it's like, is he a safety? That's kind of where we're going with that. Andrew Booth Jr., he's a lockdown corner. He's somebody that you can put over Stephon Diggs. You can put over, Jalen Waddle, and he's going to go out there and he's going to go toe-to-toe with the guy. That's exactly what they want.
One other thing, who was the tackle? There was one other tackle you said, oh, is he there? Was it Jatari Carter?
No, I don't know.
Okay, I have our UDFA list, but we don't have any offensive linemen on it. I feel like we should put one on.
Oh, I guess, Vidarian Lowe is not going to.
Right. I thought you said something about Jatari Carter when we were going through that.
Yeah.
Do you even know who that is or no?
No, it wasn't him. I'm trying to remember who the tackle is. That
you were like, oh,
about.
He's still there. And it was somebody I didn't recognize.
I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know who you're talking about. Well, we'll figure it out. But yeah, let's wrap this up. We've been going for an hour 30 plus. We appreciate everybody for watching, even the people that don't like the draft. It's okay. You don't have to like it. You just have to accept it for what it is. What'd you say?
Well, please that Josh guy one day.
Yeah, right.
He was like, for like 10 minutes before he started wishing death on us this time.
Well, we'll try to please some of you that come at us every single time and tell us that the draft is no good. Next week, next Thursday, Alex, is actually going to be our 500th show. Believe it or not.
Are you serious? I was going to ask you the other day if we'd reached 100 yet.
I don't know if it's 500. I think it's also Here, let me see. I maybe
Yeah,
500
no,
is
it's
the
not.
wrong
Kevin,
number.
that doesn't make sense. We do it twice a week. We've been doing it for 2
No,
years.
it's not for the two of us. It's Patriots Beats 500th episode. So
Okay.
going back to Trags running the podcast and all that type of stuff too. Patriots Beats 500th episode. Not just me and Alex, but everybody that's ever been on Patriots Beat. That's what I was missing there. That's next Thursday when we do mock draft 4.0. And on Tuesday, we're going to start talking some previews, and we're going to start talking about different things that we're going to look at in terms of positional previews. I want to get some guests on. I keep saying that, but we're going to definitely do that. And we're going to get some people on, and Alex and I are going to break down some positions. Look, we're in the thick of it now, right? We got 3 weeks to go until the draft. This is the sprint to the finish. This is all draft content from this way out, unless the Patriots make a trade, make a signing, make something happen. It's all draft content from here on out until the first round on April 28th. So we're really excited about all of that. And we're going to see you guys on Tuesday for a little bit of positional previews. We'll go over some latest Patriots news and buzz. And then next Thursday, mock draft 4.0, where we will try to do better than the first 3 and make everybody happy. But until then, signing off for Alex Barth, I'm Evan Lazar. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next week.